Welcome into Grind Time, powered by Full Time Fantasy in the FFWC. I'm your host, Billy Muzio, and the band is back together tonight. Bradley Stalder is in the house drafting with me tonight, and we're going to be doing a live FFWC Superflex Bowl draft. Bradley's drafting from the 4-hole. I'm drafting from the 5-hole. We're going to do a quick intro here. I'm going to eat some wings in the background. You're going to see sauce all over my face. And then when we get back, Bradley and I are going to talk about our first couple picks. Or first pick, I should say. So stay tuned. Draft starting in just a second.
Nothing but time, use it to grind. They huff and they puff it, this bacon is mine. Stakes are all high, your stakes are so dry. I'm as rare as they come, put it all on the line. Losing very doubtful, cause I'm winning every outcome. I'm impressed by his guess, there's no reason to guess. Drafting like I won the lotto, but it's grind every day. Managing teams is just part of the game. Free agents, lineups, they all in one place. This is the content that can't be replaced. Speaking of place, first is the option. Win is the goal and I do it real often. Tournament entries, I already bought them. I bury the field, that's the nail in the coffin. Checking my watch, checking my clock. Grind is the time, I ain't never gonna stop. Digital, analog, never gonna stop. You ain't never gonna stop, I ain't never gonna stop. Checking my watch, checking my clock. Grind is the time, I ain't never gonna stop. Digital, analog, never gonna stop. You ain't never gonna stop, I ain't never gonna stop. Cause it's grind time, let's go.
All right, we're back. Bradley just picked. I'm about to make my pick, and then we'll get the board up and showing. Bradley, I just ate like 6 wings in that minute and 10 seconds in the background. I think that's a new world record. I don't know what the Guinness Book World Record is, but I'm pretty sure it's probably pretty close to 6 wings.
That sounds like a minute to win it challenge. You know, if you can get some of those real jalapeno hot sauce wings, I'm sure that you could challenge for that coveted Guinness Book of World Records.
Oh man, that would be cool. Like, what's your special talent? I'm the wing eating world champion in the world. I eat wings like faster than anybody else in the business. All right, let's get this stream pulled up. Here is the board. So I threw a monkey wrench in things and said, you know what? I'm not going to go quarterback. I don't care if it's super flex, Bradley. I'm going to take a running back here, and I took Jonathan Taylor.
This is on brand for you, though.
This is on brand. Yeah, so the beginning of the draft went Josh Allen with 101. That's been pretty standard. The only draft he has fallen outside the 101 was to yours truly here when I got him in the 3-hole. I think it was the second draft of the season.
Wow.
Herbert goes 2, Mahomes goes 3, pretty typical. Lamar Jackson, walk me through. Why did you take Lamar Jackson ahead of Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray? I mean, a lot of these guys are interchangeable on websites, but walk me through your thought process. And as you're talking, try to delay yourself because I'm going to eat another wing.
So a couple thoughts about Lamar Jackson. I think that you can draft Jackson in the same tier as Kyler Murray and Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert. I think they fall in a similar tier. And looking at their upside over the last couple of years, like Lamar Jackson has shown that he can access the highest of ceilings among any of the other players in that tier. Like over the last 2 years, he's had, last 3 years, 2 of his last 3 seasons, his 84th percentile outcomes have been 32 plus fantasy points. So when he hits large, and there's a lot of advantages to him running the ball and passing the ball. And I think we're going to see a lot more running from Lamar Jackson this year with the loss of Marquise Brown and not really a replacement. You know, we might see Rashad Bateman bump up, but there's a lot of projecting with Rashad Bateman. Billy, I'd be interested once you're done eating your wings to get your take on Rashad Bateman, who is one of the biggest risers in ADP over the last month. You know, Marquise Brown had a 26% target share from last season. He goes to the Arizona Cardinals, and I don't think there's another wide receiver that's really interesting behind Rashad Bateman.
I like Bateman a lot. I mean, the kid is just talented, has great hands, is the complete package. No more competition now with Marquise Brown in Arizona. Yes, I just wiped off wing sauce on my face. Wings Beer Sports, the place to eat. Not a sponsor, but hey, hit me up, Buffalo Wild Wings. Maybe you can be. Yeah, not yet. Keyword. So Wings Beer Sports. Here we go. Eating wings, doing drafts. Rashad Bateman is the wide receiver 21 over at Full-Time Fantasy right now.
That's spicy.
It is spicy. On the Full-Time Fantasy rankings, you can get those over at fulltimefantasy.com with the package. You get Jody and I's rankings in there. And you could also customize those rankings to your platforms. So if you are drafting on another site, you can actually punch in the scoring, and you can update all those rankings based upon our projections. So we are very high, very bullish on Rashad Bateman. I do have just some concerns with Jackson and just the amount of volume we see in the passing game. He makes up for that year after year with his rushing statistics. So as long as he is able to keep up those rushing stats and stay healthy, I don't think it's out of the question for Lamar Jackson to finish as a top 4 quarterback. I think he is, let me pull up our rankings. We're a little bit lower. He's 9th on the list, but that is a consensus rankings. So Jody and I have slightly difference of opinions there. I think I have him a little higher than 9, but he's going, like I said, most of those guys from like 4 to 7 are pretty interchangeable.
Now, with the Baltimore Ravens, we saw last year they improved their pass rate pretty significantly. They were 6th among all teams in pass attempts, but that was with two preseason running back injuries, J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. We anticipate they'll move back to a more run-heavy approach, but how much more run-heavy with no good reports from Gus Edwards, and J.K. Dobbins isn't even running yet. He's just catching balls from the jug machine at this point. They drafted Tyler Beatty. They signed Mike Davis. Both of them maybe just camp bodies, but also maybe insurance if the running back situation is not ironed out.
Beatty's legit, bro. I like Beatty. I think
you're on deck.
I think it's easy, for him to potentially step into that number 2 role, and depending upon the health of Dobbins and what's happened to eat into some of that workload. I mean, he is a legit, like a really good running back. So I think Mike Davis is a camp fill. I think it's also depending upon the health of Gus. There's a lot of moving pieces here, but game fine. I mean, the team that runs the most in the NFL because Lamar Jackson's always running as well. So a lot of moving pieces, but I think that they're going to be fine in the running game.
Okay, well, there you go. So, Billy, you went with Jonathan Taylor, and you've been going a lot of non-quarterbacks in the first couple rounds with the super flex. And, I know you're on the clock right now, but after you make your selection, I'd be interested in knowing why you've been fading quarterback in the first round. Is it a teardrop? Is it that you're just not interested in those quarterbacks, or you want the positional advantage of Jonathan Taylor over the likes of Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler?
I like the positional advantages. I just feel like I can find talent at the quarterback position later. There's been some drafts where I got like Justin Fields in the 6th round as my quarterback 1, and I think that's a phenomenal advantage when you have people who are taking 3 in the first 3 rounds and you're able to load up on Taylor. I think that team I started with was like Christian McCaffrey, Lamb, Saquon Barkley, and then on the way back I got Aaron Jones. Like, it was just a monster start. And I was able to fill in nicely at quarterback, so I wasn't too worried at quarterback. There has been times, and don't get me wrong, I'm known to push the position. There has been times where I've gotten myself in a little predicament saying, oh boy, if I don't take a double tap here, I may not have a second quarterback. And yes, you're able to take some dart throws late on if you really wanted to, on like Darnold, but I'd rather just continue to take the positional players and have an advantage at all the other positions on the board. And because people forget, Superflex is not a must start to QB league. Yes, does make sense to have a quarterback in that position.
But must start, I would strongly disagree with you, but I'll let you keep going.
So we look down at different times and we say, okay, Mac Jones, right? How many points did he have in that game where they rushed the ball 43 times? When you could have had somebody like Jonathan Taylor or Lamb inside your roster. Ness, that is an extreme example. But
that's like a 0.01% possible outcome. Like, that's not a good bet. That's not a
so
good
you're
reason.
Saying there's a chance.
No, there's not a chance. That game was bitter cold.
Like I said,
not part of the game
that's
plan.
an extreme example, but there are plenty of times where a quarterback, especially in the range of 12 to 22, the quarterback, that range, right? Where they're scoring anywhere from 11 to 17 fantasy points. when you have someone like Jonathan Taylor or Christian McCaffrey, who, in my opinion, have upside of 30-point weekly points in this format, especially with the PPR, or even a wide receiver, where you're starting 3 wide receivers in this format, like the amount of points differences between that tier 2 to tier 3 quarterback, I think can be made up inside the positional players. So again, theory, we'll find out at the end of the year when whoever's crowned as the Superflex champion. But I think there's a strong case that can be made. And again, that's utilizing the full-time fantasy scoring system inside the full-time fantasy rankings. You customize it. It takes all that into consideration. And my theory has held up to the statistical side of it inside of our rankings tool.
Okay, so looking over the last in 2021, like Josh Allen was clearly the quarterback 1, and his upside was like, let's say 36 fantasy points. Mm-hmm. Go down to like Aaron Rodgers, who was like quarterback 9. His was 27. So there is a significant teardrop from like 1 to 9. But like Rodgers down to like Derek Carr, who was 18, was 26 to 21. So there is a pretty like significant teardrop, and I'm on the clock, so I need you to talk more.
So now I want to see if you have the statistics pulled up in front of you, because I did not come prepared with that data. But if you have the statistics in front of you, I'd love to see the difference in running backs and wide receivers and in tight ends across the league to see what the overall difference is at all those positions. So what is the net, right? If you have, minus 6 points between quarterback X and quarterback X and minus 7 between running back X and running back X, I'm really curious to see what the total breakdown is. But again, using the tools that we have available to us, using the projections that we have, the data suggests that it's, and of course it's, maybe I push it to the limits, but the data suggests that starting at a running back and a wide receiver combo is going to be one of the better starts in this format.
Okay, so let me pull up the running backs. So comparing the running backs, like their upside, let me go sorting here. The top 9 running backs, Henry was first with 33 fantasy points is like his ceiling. And then Kareem Hunt was 9th with 22. So going from like Kareem Hunt or James Conner, who was 10, down to Antonio Gibson, who was 18. Conner was 22. Antonio Gibson was 20. So you need that like elite running back. If you can get 2 of those top 10 guys or 2 of those top 9 guys, that's a significant pickup. And like, that's why I went Najee Harris and Deandre Swift as my 2 picks, partly because I saw that Deandre Swift fell, but also I'm pretty comfortable as Najee Harris as my running back 1, Deandre Swift as my running back 2. And then I will fill in all of the values, because it looks like a lot of the positional players have fallen. And there are a couple quarterbacks that I've now warmed up to and doing some of this upside research.
Yeah.
That I'm much more comfortable saying, hey, like these are players who replaceable. So I'll talk about those quarterbacks when they get closer to my pick. But, trying to find the value at the super flex, we've started to see more positional players come off here.
As I was talking about pushing the position, I was not expecting Rodgers there at 3.5. So I had to take him there because he is higher on my draft list than Cousins is, or even Lance, honestly. I have him just above Lance. So to be able to get him here at 3.5, I wasn't able to pass. So I was able to get my running back, my wide receiver anchor, and then got one quarterback. I had no intention of taking a quarterback there because did not expect him to make it there. But hey, he's there. I'll take it. I'll adjust.
I'm a little worried about Aaron Rodgers' upside this year. I think he'll have a pretty safe floor because he'll be able to get, the passes off to Aaron Jones, and we know that he'll not throw interceptions, so drives will continue. But I think that the offense is going to run through Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. And last year, the Packers were the slowest pace of play team in the NFL, and I don't see a reason why they would increase the tempo. They've got a good defense. They've got an MVP quarterback, back-to-back MVP quarterback, and now their best playmakers are in the running back position.
We have somebody who's complaining that I'm eating during a live stream. I eat during a live stream. That's who eats during a live stream.
Oh, man.
I had the kids outside, so I got behind because we were outside, and I made my kids a deal. I said, hey, if you guys run through the property, we have 5 acres, and I said, hey, if you guys run through the property, every piece of trash that you find, I'll give you guys a quarter. They came back, and it cost me about $7 in quarters, which was a steal, but they were so happy with all, they call them coins, right? They're still learning denominations and money, but they're only 5 and 7, but it was the best $7 I ever spent. It took them occupied for about an hour and a half, almost 2 hours. They were just running around the property. So one, it's like a babysitter, just paid a babysitter $7 an hour essentially, right? Two, they get their allowance, right? And they're excited. And then now we get to put it inside. They have these little wooden chests. We get to put it inside the chest. So that was awesome.
Okay, Billy, looking at the board, we've gone through 3 rounds. I want your take on a few of these builds. We see Team Weiland go 3 quarterbacks, and Daily Double goes 0 quarterback through the first 3 rounds. Are these the types of builds? You've gone with the 0 quarterback through the first 3 rounds, but how about the other way? The 3 quarterbacks in the first 3 rounds. What's your opinion on that?
Sorry, go ahead. I was reading the comments. Can you repeat that again? I was reading the comments.
Yeah, so Team Weiland has gone 3 quarterbacks.
Oh, I'm not a fan of
3
3
rounds.
I mean, you're asking the quarterback pusher here if I'm a fan of three quarterbacks straight. The answer is no. I don't like it. Just in general, I don't. If I've taken a quarterback in my top 2 picks, I don't even really like taking a third in a lot of drafts, or taking one extremely late, like a Mac Jones or a Wilson or somebody of that tier. So I'm going to push the third all day, and in most scenarios, I'm pushing my first even. So there's a lot of different ways to build these, and again, it depends on the volume that you're drafting as well. Like I have 18 entries. I maxed this out, right? So I'm going to build 18 different teams. I'm going to build one where I push. I didn't take a quarterback in one till round 6. I took teams where I have on the turn. I was able to get Kyler Murray and Tom Brady in one, right? So I think, again, based upon volume, it varies upon your strategy and how you're drafting, because you're able to build unique rosters depending upon how many of these you do. If you're drafting 1, 2, 3 of these things, I'm not a fan of 3 quarterbacks. I'm also not a fan of my strategy of pushing quarterbacks down if I'm doing 1, 2, or 3 of these.
Right.
So I think there's a happy medium here, and depending upon how many drafts you're doing is going to determine your strategy in these drafts.
I think that's fair. With drafting so many different teams, you want to have a little diverse portfolio, not only in the players, but also in the builds.
Yep.
But talk to me about Daily Double's build, because he went Chase, Eckler, Kelsey, and then Andrews. This is not a tight end premium draft. So talk me through what Daily Double might be doing here.
Either didn't see that it wasn't tight end premium, or he just wants to get 2 studs. Either way, I'm not a fan of it. If you're not going to go quarterback and you're not going to go wide receiver or running back, then I think that you're at a disadvantage both ways. So, I mean, we'll see. Tight end gets pushed in this format. You can get somebody like Schultz in rounds 8, 9, 10 sometimes.
I was able to get Waller in round 8 the last time I did this. So
yeah, so there's a lot of value at the tight end position, seeing that it's not tight end premium and you only have to start 1. So I'm not a fan of 2 tight end starts that early. I'd rather see a receiver board or quarterback early if you're going to go for the super flex hype. But I think that it's not my favorite. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Okay, that's fair. One of the builds that I really like.
You're
so
on
far,
deck.
Monkey Pox Qua, Josh Allen, and I know he goes at the 101, but I like the Kirk Cousins, Stephon Diggs stack to start. I think that's an interesting turn pick. I like Kirk Cousins. I like the Minnesota Vikings. Justin Jefferson, I think he's my 101 in wide receivers right now. I haven't done projections, like median projections, but last year Justin Jefferson, 50% of the time plus, was either a wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 for you. So in these best ball tournaments, I think that he's one of the safest wide receivers, given his youth, given
You're on
his
the
role
clock.
in the offense, and also because the Minnesota Vikings brought in Kevin O'Connell as their head coach.
You're on the clock.
Okay, and I'm on the clock. Billy, you just drafted. You took Alvin Kamara.
I did. Yeah, I'm going to take the gamble on Kamara not getting suspended. If he does, I think it's a pretty minor suspension. So somebody's going to be heavily involved in the passing game. I'm not too concerned about his capital that is necessary to require him in drafts right now.
Okay.
He says, Bobby Boucher. Hey now, Bobby. Bobby says, take Kamara, and then he was pretty excited that it's a Kamara. So he's not excited about me eating wings, though, on the podcast.
I guess not. Guess not.
But only winners get wings, Bobby. Only winners get wings.
This is true. Okay.
I only have 2 wings left, so I think I'll be able to finish them pretty discreetly here before Bobby gets mad at me again.
Okay. Refresh. I took Justin Fields there.
Oh,
nope.
You got it. Okay.
I took Justin Fields, which is fine. I was not a huge I was a bigger Justin Fields fan pre-draft, but I've got 2 rushing quarterbacks who can give me some spike weeks. I put out a tweet yesterday comparing the upsides between Trey Lance and Justin Fields during their rookie years, and they were pretty identical. Both of them about 20 fantasy points as their 84th percentile outcome. And I'm kind of disappointed in the Bears because all they did was draft Velus Jones and they signed Byron Pringle. Like, I think this is going to have to be a Justin Fields. He's got to do it for the team. And it's not going to be anyone other than Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet.
There's still a lot of free agents out there, right? They still have Will Fuller. There's still Julio Jones. I doubt Julio want to go there, but I could see Will Fuller landing somewhere like Chicago. But there is viable options that they can add in this passing game. I think it also just speaks to the trust that they have in Darnell Mooney and the trust that they have in Cole Kmet. I know you were pretty high on both of them. I've been extremely high on both of them during this offseason. I know in earlier tournaments, I had like almost 40% ownership with that stack, that 3-way stack between Fields, Kmet, and Mooney, because they were just going so late in drafts. I mean, in early drafts, you were able to get Kmet in like rounds 13, 14, sometimes 15. Mooney was going in like rounds 9, 10 at times, and their ADPs have climbed. And when I say early, I'm talking January, February, like drafts, like back to Super Bowl time. So they were an afterthought of everyone else who made playoffs. And I really, really like the stack. I think that you're going to see a ton of targets. Mooney had 140 targets last year. I mean, Kmet, 0 touchdowns. He's due for positive touchdown regression. I know you're going to correct me by saying that, but he's due for touchdowns here in 2022. And I think that they're both going to have significant roles.
Okay. I think Cole Kmet, he's going to be a PPR monster. So these are the types of drafts where I'll be looking to draft Cole Kmet much later as a stacking piece with Justin Fields. Looking at Full-Time Fantasy has a nice little, if you haven't bookmarked it, they put out a tweet on May 20th with the strength of schedule, in particular focusing on the fantasy playoffs. And looking at the quarterback and tight end, because that's probably going to be the stacks that I want to get. With Chicago, they have the 19th best quarterback strength of schedule for fantasy playoffs and 8th best tight end spot.
What team was that you said?
Chicago.
Interesting. Our tool's a little different. Chicago for us is the 9th best quarterback. For the playoffs, you said. That's
yes.
Why. Fan of 15 through 17, you said?
Yeah.
So I'm curious how much different they are. So Chicago, 29th at the quarterback position, and tight end is 6th. So a little different.
Komet's going to be a value.
You're on deck.
Oh, I am on the clock. And
so while you're doing that, I'll answer the questions. Always Smooth wants to know the flavor of the wings. So I had just had the traditional barbecue. It's going to be, what was it, Kinder's barbecue sauce. And then I had just some Frank's hot sauce. But I mixed in like we have that. Have you ever had that truff hot sauce?
No.
It's like truffle hot sauce.
You're on the clock.
I just put in a dash of it for the flavor because it doesn't. I've tried it just 100% on the wings and it doesn't do the trick. The Frank's is just way better. But you're able to get a combination of the 2 flavors. All right, let's see. I'm on the clock here, and then we'll get back to some questions here in the chat. Okay.
So last year, I took Jalen Waddle, and I felt like it was a value at that point. because Jalen Waddle last year, 14% of the time he was a PPR wide receiver 1, 10% of the time a wide receiver 2, 15% of the time a wide receiver 3, and 12% of the time a flex play. And I know that, the Miami Dolphins, he's going to have to share target share with Tyreek Hill. But let's be honest, Devontae Parker had a 20% target share with Miami last year. I think Tyreek Hill steps in and he does take a couple percent more targets than what Devontae Parker was. But the reality is, I think there's enough targets to go around to feed Waddle and feed Tyreek Hill, and they're both dynamic players. I like getting Jalen Waddle in the 5th round.
Jalen Waddle in the 5th round. Yeah, I like plenty of wide receivers ahead of him. Waddle's a little bit lower in my rankings. I like McLaurin ahead of him. I like DK Metcalf. I just consensus-wise is a lot higher on Waddle than I am. You look back at him and Tyreek run very similar route trees. Tyreek runs more deep threats, but they're not just going to stick him in a pure deep threat role. That's where I'm looking at this and saying, what is the role for both these guys going to be? And you look at it, and without having the exact statistic in my head, it was like both of them ran over 70% of the time in the slot. Both had low ADOTs. Of course, Waddles was one of the lowest in the league, but I just think that they don't go out and sign Tyreek Hill just to use him as a deep threat. You can go out and get somebody like Will Fuller for that scenario. So they're going to continue to utilize him with his yards after the catch ability. And in order to do so, they're going to get him in bubble screens. They're going to use him, in creative, just in a magnitude of creative ways. And so I think that that's going to be directly impacting Jalen Waddle and his fantasy points for 2022.
I think he'll have enough in the PPR. In half PPR, I can see the fading of Jalen Waddle because he had over 100 catches last year.
I don't have it in front of me. Actually, you know what we can do? So if you hit the 3 dots inside the draft room, boom. And he's already been drafted. Never mind, you can't tell. But if you normally hit the 3 dots, it'll give you all the statistics inside the draft room what they had the previous year.
Okay, we just saw Cam Akers go off the board, Billy. What's your opinion about Akers' role? Last year, you got into a pretty heated debate with a great friend in the industry, Josh Larkey, over Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson. So talk to me about your outlook for Cam Akers going into 2022. He's coming off the Achilles injury. We saw him get a lot of volume in the playoffs, but then faded when Darrell Henderson came back from the IR in the Super Bowl. What can we expect from Akers?
I'm on the fence with Akers. I like the talent. I just, again, last year, the debate with Larkey was that I just didn't think he was worthy of a first-round pick. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see the outcome of that debate because we all know he tore his Achilles. But when you look at Achilles injuries, it usually takes 2 years for that running back position to come back to full form. Look at Foreman.
Yep.
There's been a lot of other players that in the league, but Foreman is one of the most recent that we have that history that we can revert back to. So I was amazed, and I've said this time and time again on the show, but I was amazed to see his recovery and how fast that he was able to make it back on the field for playoffs. Do I think he was rushed? Absolutely. I wouldn't have want to put my running back in that situation, especially the risk of re-injury. But it looks like they made the right decision, that he was able to come out of it clean. But that being said, he did not look the same. He lacked the explosiveness that we had seen at other times when he's been on the field. He just didn't seem to have the comfort level that a running back has as well. We saw some fumbles, which probably could have been on mental block as well, referring back to the injury. So there's a lot of question marks. I think the injury to the rookie definitely helps his chances of getting more time on the field. Henderson's still there, though, and it's shown that the Rams have shown that they just have, non-committal issues. They just don't want to commit to one running back in this system. They always continue to run 2 running backs and kind of take a hot hand approach. And Henderson was very, very good in the playoffs and down the stretch. So when he was on the field, so I think Akers, him slipping in drafts is warranted. I'm on the fence. I haven't fully made my mind up about him. I'm taking shares of him when he drops to me at a level that I'm comfortable with. But I think that's what you can do at this time is kind of place him in a tier when you're ranking and just say, I like him in this tier. And if he slips, then take him. But I would not be, inclined to take him in the first 3 rounds like he was going in early drafts.
Yeah, no. Cam Akers, you mentioned Deonta Foreman. It took him that long to get back, and he looked fine, but we saw him now bounce teams. Like Tennessee was like, yeah, we're good. Now he's on Carolina. So,
okay, I have a question for Bobby. Bobby,
Yeah.
can I drink wine on the podcast? Because I'm about to drink wine too. So I went from wings to wine. We're gonna, and then that's my meal. We're good now. So there's no more surprise beverages. There's no more surprise entrees.
You're on deck.
I do have a carrot or two left, so I might dip into that later. But it is wine tonight.
So Billy, I looked it up, and the world record of wings eaten in 30 minutes.
Yes, tell me what it is. It's got to be some huge number.
Okay. Yes. I want. Okay. What do you think the over under is?
30
You're
minutes.
on the clock.
30 minutes.
That's a long time.
30 minutes.
Let's say 6 minutes a wing. That's probably more than that. You could probably go like 10. I'm gonna say like 270.
More.
Jesus Christ. How am I way off? Am I way off here?
You are.
Is it in the thousands?
No.
Is it lower or higher?
501 wings in 30 minutes. Molly Schuyler, who was 127 pounds, Billy. She after she finished eating, like probably 20% of her body weight was in chicken wings.
That's 16 wings a minute. 16.7 to be exact.
She had previously set the record in 28 minutes for 455.
She's eating a wing every 2.7 seconds.
The second place eater was 396 in 30 minutes.
Get the out of here. That's crazy.
Well, I took your boy Terry McLaurin there because you were like, well, Terry McLaurin, blah, blah, blah. And, you know,
Terry McLaurin.
Look, so Terry McLaurin, he 13% of the time last year, he was a wide receiver 1, and then 7% of the time a wide receiver 2, 2% wide receiver 3, and then didn't almost ever make your flex play. So he was more boom bust last year. And I think with a more stable quarterback and a more professional quarterback, like not to try to insult Taylor Heineke, but the reality is Carson Wentz is a more professional quarterback than Heineke. Well, we've also seen over the last few years, Carson Wentz will hyper target his wide receiver 1. Whether he was on the Eagles or last year with Michael Pittman, McLaurin he's a wide receiver 2, but has a lot of wide receiver 1 upside weeks.
Yeah, I like McLaurin a lot. And I think this is arguably one of his best quarterbacks at helm. Someone who's going to push the ball down the field and be able to hit him in stride. So I really, as long as they get him signed, which I don't think they're going to have any issues, but I think Terry McLaurin will be drafted wide receiver 22. Like, that's a good value. I'm going to pull him up, see what we have him in our full-time fantasy rankings right here. Heading on over. Terry McLaurin, where is he? Wide receiver 14 in our rankings. So we have him we actually have him ahead of T. Higgins, DJ Moore. So I think that's a good spot that you landed there. I was debating between taking him there or Brown, but I just own so much of him already. I'm trying to diversify here. How much, to be exact? If you utilize the player ownership tool at the in the lobby page and sort by wide receiver. Let's see, Terry McLaurin. He's towards the top here. Yeah, I'm already at like 25%. So time to diversify.
Fair enough. I'm just hoping I'm not sniped on this next pick because there are 2 wide receivers that I'm interested in at this spot.
You're on deck.
Oh, well, I got sniped on one, and
There's
I am on the clock, and that allows me to it makes the decision easy. I'm going to take Rashad Bateman to stack with Lamar Jackson.
You just sniped me.
Well, it fits with my
You're on the clock.
build, you know. And I haven't really gone with any stacking lately. Although Najee Harris can be pretty independent, and Lamar Jackson can be independent. Like, I've been drafting a lot of naked Lamar Jackson lately. DeAndre Swift, he can do his own thing on a bad Detroit offense. I think Detroit is going to be more competitive this year. I mean, they were competitive last year. They lost a lot of games in the first half of the season by 1 score. So I think they'll be better, but it's still not going to be a great team. It's 2023 that I think that the Detroit Lions are going to be making. They're building the right way. Like, I'm here in Detroit. Like, I live 20-25 minutes outside of Detroit, Billy, and the Lions, Brad Holmes, I think is building the Lions the right way. The GM there, he skipped on Malik Willis. He skipped on all that hype of, oh, Malik Willis is going to be top 10. He's going to be the second pick in the draft. And no, like Brad Holmes was able to see right through that. And I think Jared Goff is a perfect bridge quarterback for who they can draft in 2023.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm mad. I had 3 people in my queue, and they went 3 of the previous 4 picks. I had Mooney, Brandon Cooks, and Bateman, and all 3 of them went. I hate when that happens. It's okay. I got my boy Gabe Davis. I was apparently he broke out in the playoffs. He was my one of my breakout players of the year last year, and
he was.
Doesn't count apparently because it's in playoffs. But hey, the process was right, Bradley. The process was right.
Yeah, about that. I don't know. It would not surprise me if Jamison Crowder outscores Gabriel Davis this year in full PPR.
No, they're saying now that McKenzie's actually pushing reps in the slot over Crowder.
Yeah, I don't believe it.
So beer bet on the side, beer bet.
Okay.
Let's take a look. I want to take a look at some teams. So we have 1, 2 teams, 3 teams, counting myself, with 1 quarterback. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I guess I can just count the tops now. I forgot we added that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 with 2, 1 with 3 so far. Do you like that feature we had at the top?
Yeah, I do. It makes it pretty nice.
Yeah, I forget now. You don't have to count anymore in the colors. But what's your thought process when you have somebody like Herbert, Mahomes? When do you like taking a second quarterback? Are you pushing it down the board? Or are you more comfortable taking 2 quarterbacks earlier?
Look, I'm hoping that one of Stafford or Wilson or Jalen Hurts falls. I'm even comfortable taking a Kirk Cousins there.
Yeah.
But if those types of players don't come to me, then you just got to take the best flex player available, in my opinion. And let the value come to you, because these quarterbacks, if you can hit, quarterback is the highest scoring position here. And maybe at an off chance week, you have maybe 1 or 2 running backs or maybe a couple wide receivers, but the chance that those happen are pretty low. You're going to be anchored with your quarterbacks. So you want a high ceiling and a high floor quarterback. And if you've got Mahomes, if you've got Herbert, if you've got Josh Allen, like I thought about taking Kirk Cousins with Lamar Jackson, but Najee Harris was there and I wanted that running back. So I was hoping Kirk Cousins would make it back to me. He didn't. And if I'm starting with the 1 quarterback, like if I'm not drafting at 1 quarterback in the first round, I really don't want to leave my first couple rounds without a second quarterback.
Okay, teach their own. Yeah,
I just think it's hard week to week to get that consistent.
So now for you, Lamar's more of the rushing quarterback. I mean, injury, I understand. You have to be concerned about his rushing volume and
not really
what's going to happen to the body. But somebody like Mahomes,
he bulked up
Herbert,
20 pounds of muscle this offseason.
Okay, so but still, he's rushing that amount. Anytime you're running the ball that amount in the NFL, getting hit by linebackers, you have to have some concern with injury. But does that philosophy change for you when you have a pocket passer, or does it not matter together for you?
Look, there are only so many pocket passers that I'm comfortable taking at that spot. Like, I'm not taking a lot of Joe Burrow.
Okay.
His upside is tethered to the Jamar Chase. Like, usually it's the other way around. Like, usually it's that these quarterbacks can make the throws to get to the wide receivers. I think it's there's more credit given to the Jamar Chase breakaway on the routes or the catches that he makes, or the T. Higgins of the world. Like, I think that Joe Burrow, he doesn't have the ceiling that you think he does, as crazy as it sounds, like the 84th percentile outcome for Joe Burrow is significantly lower than the others being drafted right behind him. So To give a reference, Joe Burrow's 84th percentile outcome over the last 2 seasons have been about 25 and 26 points. Compare that to Russell Wilson, who over the last 3 seasons, his have been 27, 30, and 32 points. Or like Tom Brady last year, 31 and 32 fantasy points for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But you see that Tom Brady's being drafted behind him. Or Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott has been 30, 30, and like 40 over the last couple seasons. So like those are players that I would be comfortable taking over Joe Burrow in these best ball tournaments.
Okay. What about the human factor, right? We're looking at, coaching changes in some of these systems. We're looking at offensive line changes. We're looking at, chemistry issues as well. How much of that are you taking into consideration when you're doing these statistics?
I am concerned about the pass catchers that he's throwing to. So I think losing Chris Godwin, for instance, for Tom Brady, that's massive. At least you have a competent wide receiver 2 with Russell Gage. Like, I'm not saying Russell Gage is the second coming. Like, I'm the Russell Gage truther. And if there ever was one, Billy, you know that I'm the Russell Gage truther. And I think that he played very well on the Atlanta Falcons, on a bad Atlanta Falcons team last season who needed playmakers. He stepped up with the loss of Calvin Ridley and the disintegration of Cordarrelle Patterson over the season. Russell Gage was a big player. But it's going to be Mike Evans, which I really like the Tom Brady Mike Evans stack for the 12 spot here. I think that Mike Evans is a strong consideration, should be in that wide receiver 1 tier. So when it comes to like those quarterbacks, I think it is more dependent upon who is he throwing the ball to. And is there a significant shift in pace of play? So I would be considered, if Russell Wilson was still on the Seahawks, you would have to be concerned about the pace of play. Because they essentially played 1 fewer game last season because of the pace of play and the amount of plays that the Seahawks, had. So I think
you're on the clock.
Unless there are extremes, it's who are those quarterbacks throwing to?
Okay, I like it. Yeah, you mentioned Evans. Evans, as you know me, I've always been an Evans truther. He's actually inside. He's wide receiver 7 for us, so inside the top 10. And a lot of those reasons you just stated. I mean, Godwin's probably starting on the PUP list, or at least going to miss some significant time. He has the chemistry with Brady already. They brought in Gage, of course, but we don't know what's going to happen with Gronkowski. There's a lot of reasons that you can love Mike Evans this year. Not to mention he's always good for 1,000 yards and 6, 8+ scores. And I think that with Brady and the chemistry they were able to build over the last couple of years, I think that we're going to continue to see him just climb. And it would not surprise me if Mike Evans was the wide receiver 1 at the end of the year. Like, would that surprise you?
No, it wouldn't surprise me at all. Last season, this is crazy, of looking over the top 24 wide receivers in total fantasy points. Mike Evans was the only one in the top 24 who didn't have a 20% target share. He had a 17% target share. Like, he was making all of his fantasy points from the touchdowns, and we anticipate that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will still be a good offense for next year. I know they've had some changes in their offensive line and, Chris Godwin, and we don't know if Gronk is going to be back. But I think that Mike Evans, that's within his range of outcomes if that target share goes up, and there are reasons to think that it can.
Oh, yeah. I think it's almost a guarantee it's going to go up. I don't see how it's any lower in 2022 with the wide receiver core that's there. Unless they add, another veteran presence, I just don't see it happening. Right? Godwin slated to miss 4, 5, 6 games minimum, I think. Right, end of October is the rough estimate right now in his return, based upon previous ACL tears wide receivers. And they say the average receiver returns anywhere from 10 to 13 months for an ACL tear for wide receivers, and again, they're just not that efficient or productive upon returning from that tear. So I don't think they rush him into returning. You have Tom Brady. You're going to be competitive throughout the entire season. In my opinion, they re-signed him knowing that they're going to be able to have Tom Brady back, get down the stretch, and utilize Godwin for that playoff push and into the playoffs. I don't think that he was in the plans for the beginning half of the season.
Yeah, I don't think so either. That's why I'm a big proponent of, if you're playing on season-long tournaments like drafters, I think the likes of Russell Gage are better for those tournaments and not as good for like end-of-season tournaments where you have to qualify and then hope that you've got the good stacks as you go into the playoffs, because the likes of Russell Gage, who got you there, probably won't carry you in those weeks.
I agree. You are on deck, so go ahead and start making your selections. I like what Monkeypox has done here on the turn. It's not only just symmetrical for my
You're on deck.
for my OCD, but I just like what he had done. I mean, I like Rodgers over Cousins, but outside that, just personal preference. I like the build that he did, the double there, and then went, five receivers straight, and then 2 running backs. Both of those running backs I like as well. So love the Monkeypox build here from the one spot.
All right. Well, I've gone with 2 of my favorite players.
You're on the clock.
In these last 2 rounds, Adam Thielen and Tyler Lockett. I think that those 2 players are criminally undervalued in best ball leagues in particular. Looking at over the last 2 seasons, Tyler Lockett is only one of 3 players to have a top 10 wide receiver 1 rate. The other 2, Tyreek Hill and why am I blanking on the Devontae Adams? The only other 2. Adams ADP is like wide receiver 6. Tyreek Hill is wide receiver 9. Tyler Lockett, I can't tell on here. Can we tell what he went off wide receiver 38?
Yeah, his ADP right now. So you got him rated ADP in the previous 10 drafts. He's gone as wide receiver 39 here at the FFWC, and this is specific to the Superflex Bowl.
Right.
Phelan, so I think, I've seen him fall as far as like 45 in some of these drafts, which is just crazy. Like that is just huge value. So there's a lot of wiggle room there, but I like where he's going. I think that's a lot of value because, I mean, there's also still some rumors out there floating with DK Metcalf. Now I don't think he'll be traded, but if he was, like, where does Lockett get drafted at that point? Yeah, wheels up, right? So for me, it's a risk reward situation, and I always look at players and say, like, look at Debo, for instance, last year, right? Somebody asked about Debo earlier, but you look at Debo, for instance, last year, and you just say there's not many scenarios where he's going to underperform outside injury, underperform at the ADP he was going. Lockett is one of those scenarios where, yes, there's a lot of quarterback controversy, and we just don't know who's going to be at helm. But that being said, wide receiver 38 is a pretty damn good value, and I think that there's a lot of room for him to outperform that ADP if things go right for him in Seattle. Now, maybe he doesn't, and he ends up as 45 through 50. What did it take to get him? A round 9 pick in this draft. I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah, no, the upside is just so tremendous with Tyler Lockett. Last year, he was wide receiver 5 in wide receiver 1 rate. 28% of the time, he was in your wide receiver 1 spot last year. And that was including 3 games with Geno Smith. So if it's Geno Smith, like, at least we've seen Tyler Lockett have a week. He was the wide receiver 5 for one of the weeks in full PPR last season in a game with Geno Smith. And I drafted him, my wide receiver 5? I'm not expecting him to start for me,
Yeah. I mean, he very well could. I mean, that's the beauty about him, right? He's known for that boom bust spike weeks. And you have, some ceiling play here as well. Jalen Waddle getting targets, McLaurin, who's usually pretty efficient, Bateman, who should see plenty of opportunity, Phelan, who's kind of red zone dependent, but has shown to be, very reliable in that offense for that position. So you don't, like you said, you aren't relying on him every week, but you're definitely going to be using him, especially, whether it's flex or wide receiver. So as a wide receiver 5, I love it. I think Tyler Lockett is a fantastic wide receiver 5 pick.
Well, and Adam Thielen, he was wide receiver 14 last year in wide receiver 1 rate, and he had that was 14%, 15% of the time he was a wide receiver 1 for you, and 20% of the time he was in the wide receiver 2 spot for you, 10% of the time wide receiver 3. So we're talking 45, almost 50% of the time he was making your best ball lineups if he was healthy. And I know that, he's getting up there in age, but Adam Thielen, he didn't play much during the first few years. So there might still be, tread left for those tires in a Minnesota offense that we expect to be better this year. We've heard a lot of positive things about them.
Yeah, you see, so it's another player I want to talk about is Treylon Burks. So he continues to kind of fall down draft boards. He was going much earlier in drafts. Over the previous 10, he's fallen down to wide receiver 42, so about where he selected today. But I have seen him, again, this is my 10th draft in this format. I have seen him go as high as round 8 in these drafts, on average, kind of middle of round 9. What is your opinion on Treylon Burks right now and him having the asthma in camp? Do you think it's allergies? Do you think it's him adjusting to a new region? Like, are you concerned with Treylon Burks?
No. We saw a first-round wide receiver last year have issues, and everyone was all in a tuzzy. Jamar Chase, and I know that they're different prospects and different things going on, but I think that this is a fair price for Treylon Burks at this point. We saw Ryan Tannehill. I looked at ADP drop over the last month, and Ryan Tannehill has dropped almost 2 rounds. And this is where you're going to get Ryan Tannehill a little bit cheaper, and you're going to get Treylon Burks a little bit cheaper. So I think this is a good thing for fantasy drafters, that you're able to get a first-round wide receiver, and especially during tournament plays. Like,
you're on the clock.
Treylon, I'm on the clock here, Billy.
I think you're hearing mine.
Says, I'm hearing yours.
Yeah, you're on deck.
Sorry, you threw me off. But
now you're on the clock.
But these wide receivers that are drafted in the first round, their 84th percentile outcome is like 18, 19 points. And those hit during the fantasy playoffs. So drafting these rookie wide receivers in tournament plays like weeks 15, 16, 17, they're more likely to hit big upside during those weeks.
Yeah, they're going to be learning the system. They're going to be getting acquainted with the running or for the staff. They're going to be getting, rapport with the quarterback. There's a lot of reasons it takes time for a rookie wide receiver to develop. They're running the routes, the full route tree. So I agree. If you're drafting him, you don't want to rely on him in the beginning, but somebody who's Treylon Burks, who's going in round 1, who's going into that many vacated targets, 336 vacated targets on this team. It's something that you were hoping he's going to step into an immediate role, but missing time in minicamp, missing time in camp is never a positive thing for a rookie.
Oh, definitely not. I would concur with that.
What I say earlier, Dalton Schultz, you can get around 9 or 10. Look at that.
Back of 10 here. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's good value. I like Schultz there. That's a good pick. I
know it's not stacking with anybody, but he's going to be the second pass catcher on the Dallas Cowboys probably for the whole year. Michael Gallup tore his ACL late in the season, and Michael Gallup, I talked about this on my channel. He's a fade for me because he's been drafted in one quarterback leagues like round 10, round 11. I can't get behind that because he's usually going to be your wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5, wide receiver 6, and you're like the second, third player off of your bench, and he's not going to be available to you for most of the season. And last year we saw a huge decrease in efficiency for Michael Gallup. We're also seeing that Jalen Tolbert, James Washington, and Simi Fehoko are getting run in Dallas to start the preseason. It's going to take time for Michael Gallup to be useful. I think he's more of a 2023 play.
Yeah, we're starting to see. They said that Pollard's starting to run out of the slot, which is finally they figured out how to use Tony Pollard. Like about damn time. It's only taken them 4 years to figure it out.
Right.
So they're a little slow, but hey, they got it figured out. I think Schultz is easily the number 2 target in this offense. I mean, a lot of touchdown upside as well. So I think it's a fantastic play. He is let me go to tight end. I'll tell you exactly where he is ranked in our tight end rankings over at Full Time Fantasy. He is our tight end 6, so behind George Kittle. So we have him ahead of Hawkinson. Somebody took Gronkowski there. That's bold. So I mean, tight end 6, you got him as tight end 8, so a little bit of value there compared to our rankings. And I think I have him. I do have him at 6 in my own personal rankings too. So exactly there in line with our consensus.
Beautiful. Yeah, I felt like that was the right spot. I'm just going to scoop up ADP value at this point because I've got my 2 anchor quarterbacks, I got my 2 anchor running backs, and now I'll just cycle through wide receivers. I got my 1 tight end. I might look to get Cole Kmet later.
Look at how pretty number 1's draft board is. It's so color coordinated. Like, do you think he goes blue next and just like double taps it?
You're on deck.
Probably another running back, to be honest, because You're banking on Rashad Penny, A.J. Dillon, James Cook, Melvin Gordon being two of those four being your running back 1, running back 2. Excuse me. I was disappointed that Cortland Sutton was not available to me later on in the draft, but Sutton is one of my favorites. If you were picking a Denver wide receiver, is it Sutton or is it Judy?
Oh, Sutton all day for me. He's the deep threat. I mean, he's going to be the one that – I mean, Russ throws a beautiful deep ball, and that's the one who's going to be catching that deep ball is Cortland Sutton. So Sutton way ahead of Judy for me. Judy's a great route runner, but I think Sutton's going to just mesh well with Wilson. And he went wide receiver 14 off the board here at 5'1". His stats guru says we need one more green in the pattern for Monkey. Probably, maybe. I don't know.
You're on the clock.
If he does, then he's gonna have to.
Sorry, I sniped your Cadarius Tony there.
I just saw that. You, Bradley. You tonight.
Look, that's what sucks about drafting and being on the live stream with someone and they're right next to you in the draft.
You're on the clock.
Yeah. Now I gotta adjust on the fly here.
All right, so Cadarius Tony, let's talk about him. Last year he had a 3.5% wide receiver 1 rate, a 3.8% wide receiver 2 rate, 2% wide receiver 3 rate, and a 7.7% flex. But he started the season really slow, wasn't getting a lot of reps. He may very well take over that Sterling Shepard role, which we saw consistently a wide receiver 2 production. I like Cadarius Tony this year.
Yeah, you sniped me. That was who I had queued up.
Sorry.
It happens. It happens. It's happened a bit this way on both sides. So, we're drafting on the side to the deep end. So that's Mike Shope and Adam Krotwurst. Cheers, Mike. I said I'd do a cheers to you at the wine. I know you have wine tonight, too.
Cheers, Mike. Cheers, Adam.
So those boys are drafting over there. They know the players that we like as well. So very competitive draft room. But I was able to get Wilson here, who I also really like. Again, he is my wide receiver 6, so I don't have to rely on him outside or right out the gate. And in drafts right now, he's been going at wide receiver 45 in drafts through the last 10 drafts. So four picks of value at the position. He's on average going at pick 120, so five picks of value there as well. So I am happy with getting Wilson there, but I would have highly preferred Tony.
Yeah, sorry.
Thanks, Bradley. Thanks.
Not sorry.
Not invited back to the podcast, Bradley.
Fair. If that's what pushes you over the top, around
that's
11
it.
Pick,
I'm done.
Snipe.
I'm done
here in June. So Billy, hey, I just have to tell you, today was my last day of school.
Oh, nice. The freedom. You're going to start your projections?
Yep, I'm going to start projections next week. I'm going to do some projection study hall, so you can check those out on the BestBell Fantasy YouTube channel. I'm probably going to do 4 teams throughout and just be very transparent with my process of players, and then I'll do a full rundown of based on like the median projections or making judgment calls. Here are the players that I think are going to be top 12, top 10, etc. And I also want to include some upside plays and also some floor plays, but we'll get there next week, and we're kicking off that new segment for BestBell Fantasy.
Great, good stuff, Bradley. Happy for you. Yeah. Let's take a look at some builds so far. Team 1 right now is going 2-4-5 through the beginning of the 11th, or I should say through 11 rounds for them. Team 2 is 3-3-4-1. Kill Bill at the 3 hole so far is going 2-4-4-1. You are 2-2-6-1, so very similar to me. I'm 2-3-6-0, so very similar process here. We have deep end at 2-2-5-2, so they double.
You say similar process, but our boards are completely different.
Yes, but in terms of construction is what I meant. So thank you for correcting me. Construction, very similar. Deep end is at 2-2-5-2. Looks like they could not resist the Pitts-Kittle combination there. And then we have Bob in the 7th hole there is at 2-2-5-2 as well. Who Cares Superflex is at 2-3-6-0. And then we have Team Wayland is going to be at 4-3-3-1. I don't know about that there, Bob. Bad decision, Bob. Then we have Jet Match at 2-3-5-1. Daily double is at 2332, and Always Smooth at 3530. I think the only major question marks, just skimming through those numbers, is going to be Team Whalen. 4 quarterbacks, one of Deshaun Watson, who we are hearing reports out the gate, or not out the gate, but just hearing reports that NFL is pushing for a lengthy suspension. What is your take on Watson? I was more willing to gamble on him earlier in the process than I am now as more things unfold, especially with the latest acquisitions. Are you comfortable drafting Watson in drafts? Are you fading him altogether? Is it more from a fantasy perspective, a moral perspective? How are you handling Deshaun Watson in drafts?
It's a good question, Billy. I sent a tweet out yesterday talking about this particular subject, and I hope I'm not overstepping bounds. I don't actually care if I'm overstepping bounds. I said in my tweet, and you can take a look at it, I posted about 10:30 p.m. Eastern last night. What if fantasy sites took out Deshaun Watson from their player pools? New teams couldn't draft him. Players on dynasty teams would, of course, be grandfathered in, but we can't have it both ways. We can't be both outraged at what's going on and also continue to play with him. I think that's the tough thing, is either we accept that this behavior is acceptable and is not acceptable, and we accept that the behavior is acceptable and stop this feigned disgust of sending out a tweet of oh, how dare, or we actually take action in our leagues and we remove this morality dilemma. Because I know for a lot of fantasy players, this is the dilemma. Right. I recently did a podcast with Adam Krautwurst, who's in this draft, and I used the phrase putting morality aside, and you just did so as well. And this is how we approach the Watson situation. Why do we have to do this to ourselves as fantasy players? I think that's a tough thing to cope with and deal with. Why are we being put in the situation where it's not just oh, he's pulled over for DUI, but there are 66 different instances based on this New York Times article. This is not a 1 or 2 or 3 time thing. And there are 26 civil suits now. Why do we have to do this to ourselves?
You're on deck.
I would urge that fantasy commissioners and other people in power, consider things like this. Why wouldn't we remove a Ray Rice, for instance, from the stream, from the player pool? Let's not put this moral problem on our players. And I think that because if we allow players, then it becomes at what point are they of value, right? At what ADP does this alleged morality of a player influence your willingness to draft them? It's a tough question. And I'll begin with, I don't like it. And I have drafted 100 teams, and I think I have 1 or 2 selections of Deshaun Watson just for being contrarian, but 98% of the time I'm completely leaving him be.
Yeah, I am. So I get what you're saying. I don't fully agree with it because we're talking tournaments here. We're talking fantasy football.
Right. Once these tournaments have started, we go through. We have
can't
to
remove
them
him from the pool because now you're giving.
But with new tournaments,
I
think that's fair.
Yeah, but at the same time now, that's what makes these tournaments, right? Is people creating edges and getting value at position. And although one person may have moral concerns with it, and I mean, I definitely have moral concerns in terms of Watson, but when it comes to fantasy football and a bottom line, from a bottom line perspective, if you're able to get Watson in round 10 or 11, 12 in a super flex, and he plays and it hits, I mean, wow, you're going to be...
he's a top 5 quarterback if he actually is on the field.
He's been off for some time. I mean, he has that potential, of course. We've seen that potential. Whether it's to remain is to be seen, but all I'm saying is that, you have to have risk tolerance when it comes to fantasy football. Sure. And you have to be okay to, take people at X price, and whether you have moral concerns about their behavior or whatever it may be, there is a cost associated with it in fantasy football that may affect your bottom line. And although it sounds cold-hearted to look at it from that way of a bottom line perspective, we're playing football for money. We're playing fantasy football for money. And at the end of the day, we're all trying to win.
Completely aside, if you were to ask me, just from a risk perspective, I don't think he's worth, what do we get him in what round did he get
went
drafted?
he went as pick 88, 8-4.
So at the 8-4, I still think that's too expensive given that he might be suspended for the first half of the season. He might be suspended for the second half of the season. He might be suspended for the whole thing. And so when especially like tournaments like this, you don't know what the outcome is. And for him to be drafted like ahead of Daniel Jones or Davis Mills, who are guaranteed, aside from injury, guaranteed to be playing, I can't get behind that.
You're on deck.
So Stats Guru says he has to be left on boards until he's suspended for the season, and even then, he still has to be left on boards. So I agree with that, especially
with new tournaments. And once he's suspended, I think he should be taken off boards.
Bobby says Deshaun has declined to be indicted by 2 juries, meaning twice there has not been enough evidence to even imply a crime. Plus, he's elite. So you're going to have a lot of different opinions on both sides of this of this situation. I prefer to remain neutral and look at it purely from a statistical standpoint and how do I win.
You're on the clock.
I'm willing to take Deshaun Watson in round 8 or 9 in a super flex draft. Like, yes, I took. I could have taken him at 7, but
you're on the clock.
Had he fallen back to me, I'm on the clock. Give me 1 second. Had he fallen back to me, I probably would have taken him.
Yeah, I think that's a tough spot that we're put in. Like the tough thing about the Deshaun Watson case is there's not a lot of video or photo evidence in this case. We saw with the Ray Rice or Kareem Hunt, we saw the videos and boom, immediately we have issues. But like Jameis Winston, when he grabbed the crotch of the Uber driver, he was suspended 3 games, 4 games, something like that. But there was no video evidence. There was no photos. So I would anticipate this probably becomes an 8 to 16 game suspension. But if there are videos or photos that come out, his career could be done if that type of evidence is unveiled.
I think that regardless of the evidence unveiled, the NFL has proven time after time that they don't give a rat's ass about what's been proven in court. Look at the Zeke Elliott scenario, right, where he was still suspended regardless of the court's outcome, and the court has made it very clear that they want nothing to do with the NFL's disciplinary. So that just shows you that we're left at the mercy of Goodell and the league, and I think, from everything that has happened from even the Washington football team and all the negative press that this league has seen, that they're going to bring the hammer down on Watson. I initially thought that they may look at it and say time spent, he was off all last year, he's going to play, but I'm not sure that's the scenario anymore.
I don't think so anymore.
I don't think that the Browns look at that contract and say, hey, we're going to, they gave that year 1 like nothing. So if he is suspended,
well, that's a typical contract. Like that's
but
not.
They did it from a salary perspective. If he's suspended all year, that it doesn't affect him that much. So they're expecting a lengthy suspension as well from a contract standpoint. So I don't. The new allegations changed everything because they may be able to avoid the contract altogether. But that being said, if they don't and they stick with him,
especially if there are some stipulations in the contract of like you outright lied to us.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's outs in that contract in relation to these new allegations, but I think that the bottom line is if the league doesn't come down on him, what does that say? I don't think they're willing to take that big of negative press. So I think they're going to make an example out of this situation. I would not be surprised to see an entire year suspension. Honestly, it's not out of the realm of possibilities. So again, risk tolerance here. If you're looking at it from a draft perspective and fantasy football's perspective, at what point are you willing to take him to have that upside as an elite quarterback or a once elite quarterback? Are you willing to take that risk, and what does that risk look like to you? What's that cost going to look like to your team?
Like, as long as I still have some starting positions I'm probably needing to fill, unless I'm going with some like zero RB strategy, like he's not a player that I'm targeting.
Yeah, Stats Guru says, let's catch up on the chat here. We have a lot of chat stuff that I've been not neglecting, but just not as quick to look at. Hammer down to appease the masses. Bobby says that could be a clause similar to the Aaron Hernandez contract. that one's bad.
Those are very different things.
Yeah. Ask Ray Rice if 1 year is lengthy. If you're guilty, felony, no money. I don't know that. I don't know if that's accurate or not.
I don't think he's going to, but it's not criminal anymore. It's all civil cases except for maybe the last 2.
Yeah. So I think that bottom line is it doesn't look good for the league regardless of the outcome.
Right.
You already have people who are upset about it based upon the league not really taking action yet.
No, I am all for the league taking their time and making sure that they have all the evidence they need to appropriately discern the situation. Like if it is clear that somehow this is an extreme conspiracy against Deshaun Watson, like we want that truth to come out. But if all of these women that have come forward and said, yes, he did these things, if that truth has come forward and it's verified, then, we want the NFL to do the right thing. Okay.
Enough about, wow, we went on a tangent there.
Yeah,
Deshaun Watson, it was about 5 rounds. No, it's
Yeah,
good. This is the topic of the league. Like, this is the hot button right now, right? Inside the league. But let's catch up on the board.
Sure. So after the Cadarius Tony, I went Darrell Henderson and Alexander Madison, both players that if their running back 1 goes out, they become like at least a running back 2. Like looking at Darrell Henderson.
So surprised you didn't take Ronald Jones there. Like I know that you're not crazy about Ronald Jones, but they sign him. They re-sign McKinnon for the passing game. What does this say about CEH? They clearly don't trust him in 1-2 downs. The entire basis was, now he's going to be involved in the passing game, and then they re-sign McKinnon. Why are you out on Ronald Jones this year? Besides the fact that he just underperformed in Tampa, like walk me through your thought process. I'm curious.
The Kansas City Chiefs running back typically needs to be able to catch passes well. And it didn't happen last year, or it hasn't happened in his time at Tampa. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to bounce back in a pretty significant way. He had gallbladder surgery during the season or preseason, and he lost, 25, 30 plus pounds. And this is a dude who's like 5'8", 200 plus. And losing that amount of weight in an undersized player, of course, it's going to affect your performance, and it probably is in the minds of the coaches, and it's in the minds of the play callers and all of that. So I think that Clyde Edwards-Helaire has a bounce back year. Like Cordero Patterson went ahead of him in this draft, and I think that that's outrageous. So I think that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is in a good spot. Bring back Jerick McKinnon is this late is more of a depth piece, a camp body, in my opinion. He played a nice role, but that's the role that they want Clyde Edwards-Helaire to have.
Are you sure?
Yes. They could have gone out and signed like a Chase Edmonds.
So I was going to say it, and somebody just said it in the chat. I don't think that Ronald Jones – oh, no, that's the wrong one. I don't think Ronald Jones was used properly in Tampa Bay. You look back at playoff Lenny's stretch – and they were about to cut him. They came out and said, we were about to cut Leonard Fournette. But then what happened? Ronald Jones got hurt. He was on a hot streak. He was running well. He was running hard. He had one of the best breakaway rates in the league that year. That was when he was actually being utilized properly. What makes you think that Kansas City isn't going to unleash that? He's young.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire is young, too. And they use first-round draft capital on him. Ronald Jones is a free agent, and we've seen free agent running backs. They've had a mixed bag of what they've brought to their new team. And the pass-catching part of the running back in the Kansas City Chiefs offense is a significant part that we can't overlook.
So Ronald Jones is only 1 year older than Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and he's been in the league for like a decade.
Fair.
So he has the experience. He's been proven to be a better goal line back. We've seen Clyde Edwards-Helaire at the goal line. It's like every time he runs into a brick wall. The guy's only 5'7", 207 pounds, soaking wet. So I think that Ronald Jones is easily the red zone back in this offense, sprinkling in between the 20s. I'm starting to wonder what Clyde Edwards-Helaire's role is going to be in this offense.
You're on deck.
Someone says I can't use the word Ronald Jones and unleash in the same sentence.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you.
Mark my words. Mark my words.
All right,
I was always a Ronald Jones fan, though.
Well, speaking of being a fan of Corey Davis,
You're on the
last
clock.
season you created a picture with the Pope holding up Corey Davis, and it has to be one of my favorite pictures. Being Catholic, the Pope Francis is one of my boys, and so him holding up Corey Davis. And last season, Corey Davis in the games that he played was pretty effective. Like, why is he not showing up? Okay, so 4.5% of the time last year, Corey Davis was a wide receiver 1 for you. 11% of the time he was a wide receiver 2, and 5.5% of the time a wide receiver 3. So like he has shown the times to be able to be in your best ball lineups, and with not having wide receiver, like a wide receiver 1, like I don't have a Cooper Kupp, I don't have a Jamar Chase, I don't have a Mike Evans or AJ Brown, like those players who we've seen like they can spike like crazy. I want to make sure I get wide receivers who have shown at least a little bit, of wide receiver 1 upside. And Corey Davis has that. What is your opinion about Zach Wilson? Is he good? Is he bad? Was he miscoached? Will he take a step forward in 2022?
I expect a significant step forward in 2022. You look at, he was a rookie getting to know the speed of the NFL. He really didn't have that many weapons. He had a lot of injuries. I just think that you look at what they added in the draft, and they had a phenomenal draft. They really did. Plus, you have your second year in the league, second year in the system, second year with your coach. It would be hard to see him not take a step forward, in my opinion. Now it is the Jets, and the Jets do Jets things, so that's always a scenario. But I just don't see that happening. I really think that he has the talent to succeed. He definitely has the weapons. I mean, Elijah Moore, Wilson, Corey Davis, right? You add in Breece Hall at the backfield plus Carter. There's a lot to like about this offense, and I think that game script, do I think they're going to be, an 8-9 win team? No. I think they're going to be playing from behind a lot, which is going to be pretty good for fantasy points. So I like Wilson more than the masses, but he's still in that same tier to me. So I want to talk about player.
Sure.
Tyrion Davis-Price, Bradley.
Ooh.
Okay, so Niners selected him in round 3, right? LSU product, has speed, 4.48, 90th percentile in the speed score, burst score 55th percentile. But you look at his college YP carry, almost 5 yards a carry in college. Target share, he, not a lot of target share there, but he has all the traits necessary to be successful back in this Kyle Shanahan offense. It's definitely been proven Trey Sermon's not the answer. Jeff Wilson has shown durability concerns. Elijah Mitchell, who I love, has shown durability concerns. What's your opinion on Davis-Price? How much do you think he's going to be involved? I have him right now for about a 37 to 40% running back share for volume, which should put him more, honestly, inside that Madison range, Carter range. But what's your opinion on Davis-Price, and where are you comfortable pulling the trigger?
So Tyrion Davis-Price, over the last month on Drafters Fantasy, has been the number 2 riser. He has increased almost 3 rounds of draft capital. Look, I've gone on record and I've said that Elijah Mitchell is my dark horse to lead the NFL in rushing attempts, and I stick by that. I think Tyrion Davis-Price will sprinkle in, but unless Elijah Mitchell goes down with injury, I think it's going to be the Elijah Mitchell show. And Davis-Price is not the going to be the bell cow back. So in tournaments like this, maybe he's more valuable, right? He might be a late season play, especially if Elijah Mitchell, who suffered through a lot of injuries. It's like the FFWC or the Superflex leagues like this, he may be much more valuable than other tournaments.
Okay. I like that. So speaking of other tournaments, I want to talk about the format of this tournament. So
Sure.
unlike other tournaments where you have a bunch of pass throughs, so you win, one or two in your league, you pass through to week 15, you play, you don't get top two, you don't pass through. That's not the scenario here at the Superflex Bowl at FFWC. We
Right.
wanted to create a unique format, something that was going to truly benefit the highest scoring team of the season. So for those who are unfamiliar, top two are going to pass into the championship round, and then it's going to be more like a tournament like the World Championship, or now the Player Profiler Championship, formerly known as the Online Championship. But
You're on deck.
you are going to get your season average once you're into the tournament, and then it's a 3-week point shootout. So essentially, the season has 1 quarter weight coming into the shootout because you're carrying that average over. And it's a 3-week shootout. So if you have a bad week 15, you can make it up week 16, or vice versa. A bad week 16, you can make it up week 17. It's total points. That's it. How does that change your philosophy when drafting these? Like, I'm not as stack focused in this tournament now as I was for other sites where you are focusing in on week 17,
Right.
to hit, lightning in a bottle to be the overall champion.
You're
Like,
on the clock.
this is a total points championship. So how does that for you? How does that change your strategy?
Well, looking at like my draft, for instance, like I threw a lot of stacking out of the way. Like I don't have a lot of stacks here, a couple of them here and there, but I'm more banking on if by the end of the season, like Cam Akers isn't
You're on the
healthy,
clock.
or Dalvin Cook isn't healthy, or DeAndre Swift isn't healthy, I have players who can step in and be more valuable during that stretch run. Because as we know, over the course of the season, veteran players tend to get injured, and these rookies tend to step up into bigger roles. Let me take a
Yeah,
pic
you're
here.
now on the clock. I passed the buck on to you.
Yeah, thanks.
You're
I took David Njoku. You took Robert Tonyan.
Your
Do you
boy.
think Tonyan is going to be? Yeah. Thanks, Billy, for the Robert Tonyan jersey.
You're welcome.
But yeah, I mean, these are it's now a stretch run. It's not just a 1 week 17, because sometimes you get obsessed with this week 17. We know if in those week 17 tournaments, it's like 98% of your expected value is that week. And reducing the variance, I think, is a valuable thing in
That's
these
exactly
types
what
of
it was.
tournaments.
I was sick and tired of the damn variance, right? Like, some of my best teams were eliminated in some of these because of bye weeks last year, right?
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor teams, right, that had a bye week in week 14 or whatever it was, where now it's like that doesn't matter here. One, because weeks 1 through 14 are in the regular season, but two, you have total points. And it's just variance out of the equation. It benefits the truly best built team.
Right.
And it's a unique format. There's nothing out there else like it in the best ball world. It's kind of a combination of the season long tournament style builds, or a construction of a tournament, to a best ball tournament. And I thought it was a very unique style, and I'm very excited for it because it truly is like, there's no excuses, no if and ors buts. Oh, I could have been if this didn't happen. No, you built the second best team in a story. You built the third best team in a story, or you had the best team in a story. It's total points. Looks like Miss Sanchez loves that. Awesome. Kind of tired of all
You're
the
on deck.
week 17 talk.
All right. I am banking on a late
You're on the clock.
Baker Mayfield. Do you think Baker Mayfield ends up on Carolina, Seattle? Where does he end up? Because I don't think it's going to be on Cleveland. I don't think he plays for Cleveland anymore.
I don't think it's Cleveland either, but I definitely think that he's going to play again. I could see it being Seattle. Carolina's also in the mix. Not a lot of other teams out there that I think makes a lot of sense. So it's going to be one of those two. Who knows? He may even be traded in a package and he'd be maybe a backup somewhere. I don't think that's going to be as likely, but it's definitely a possibility. But I would say I think Seattle and Carolina are the betting favorites. I think it makes the most sense for both teams as well. But it's hard to say right now. I don't think Cleveland really wants to trade him either until they know what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson. So there's a lot of different.
I think
moving pieces here.
Cleveland just doesn't want to pay a lot of his contract. That's the holdup. Because
But if they're able to, let's just say that hold up, but let's just say that they're able to, all this Deshaun Watson stuff comes to light and they can void his contract based upon all the new evidence. Now all of a sudden they can pay Baker Mayfield's contract.
I don't think Baker wants to play for the Browns anymore.
I don't think so either, but
he's not going to play. Like, they've already agreed for him to be excused from workouts during the mandatory team workouts. So no, I don't. Stats guru, stop it. Like, Baker Mayfield is so underappreciated and so undervalued. Like, yeah, he's good, but I think that a couple things happen. One is under Stefanski's offense, it became much more run the ball, throw to the tight ends, and the wide receivers are not a first read. So when Baker Mayfield was looking for to pass down the field, that's why he wasn't looking for Odell Beckham or Jarvis Landry, because in how he had practiced that offense under Stefanski, Beckham and Landry were not the first reads. So it makes sense. Like, look, if there's some, where I would love Baker Mayfield? Hear me out. Send him to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Play behind Brady and
play behind Brady. It's a pass-first offense. He'll have Evans. He'll have Godwin next year. He'll have Russell Gage. There are going to be weapons down the field, and he's willing to chuck it. So I think that might be an interesting, longer-term solution, because I don't think Kyle Trask is an interest. So this is me calling my shot. Baker Mayfield to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I mean, same could be said of. I mean, he could literally go to New Orleans and compete with Winston from day one, in my opinion. Right? Winston is not the answer to me, and Andy Dalton's the backup now there, and Taysom's moved to tight end officially. So there's a lot of. I mean, there is opportunity across the league. It's going to be interesting to see what happens down the stretch, as we get into camp and into week one, and people are starting to scramble. I'm very curious to see what happens with them. But he could present to be a massive value in drafts, especially Superflex, if he is on a team. So a couple things. So Johanna says that he's the 101, had one of the best rookie seasons. Stats Guru said Cleveland's paid most of his contract already. I like this
it's got
comment.
$18 million in the last season.
Yeah. Crappy quarterbacks don't get drafted 101 and play like that as a rookie. And then Scott says the problem with Tampa is they'd have to extend him. So all valid points here.
Yeah, but I mean, they're paying Brady however much. And look, I think that's they need another quarterback, because they'll probably be in the playoffs, and they're not going to get a good quarterback in the back end of the first round in 2023. So they're going to have to sign a veteran quarterback, and I don't think that's a possibility. Maybe long term they're able to eat a little bit of the Baker contract for this year and then extend them.
Okay. Haven't taken a look at builds lately. Let's go through. We are now in the beginning of round 18. I can't see. Round 18. Hole 1's at 2672. We have the 2 holes at 3392. Kill Bill is at 3572. You are at 3572. I'm at 2573. Deep End is at 3572. Shout out to Adam and Mike. Bob is sitting at 2582. Who Cares is at 2582. Wheeland is 4752 in a 3 wide receiver start league. Jet Metch is at 2682. Daily Doubles at 3573. And Always Smooth at 3582. We already know the elephant in the room. Besides that, what builds are you liking here on the board so far?
So as I said, the 12 is a good build. I feel like I like the Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I think if you're picking a veteran wide receiver at value, it's Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Juju Smith-Schuster went in this draft. I'm scanning the board.
You're on the clock.
Are you on the clock?
You're on the clock. Yep.
So Juju Smith-Schuster went. I don't see him.
He went in the 5th or 6th round.
The 5th round, right? Give me a 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th
You're
round.
on
Give
the
me
clock.
10th round Marquez Valdes-Scantling instead of 5th round Juju Smith-Schuster.
Deciding what I want to do here. You know what? I'm torn here, Bradley. I'm torn. I have a couple pieces that I like here.
I don't know. You got to pick.
I'm gonna stack the backfield a little bit because I don't think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the answer, Bradley.
Ooh, that's a bold call.
Gives you my 6th running back. It can be done at the position.
I'm going to probably go at wide receiver here, and I'm going to make a pick. Cedric Wilson here in the 18th round. He's one of my favorite late round, like 18, 19, 20 round wide receivers, because if one of those Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill goes out, we've seen Cedric Wilson jump into a pretty significant role as a handcuff wide receiver, one of those rare handcuff wide receivers. And last year, Cedric Wilson was, over the last 2 years, it's him and like 7 other wide receivers are the only ones to improve their wide receiver 1 rate in PPR. Like, he's hit those ceilings before.
Okay. I like it. There's a lot of mouths to feed now. I think this offense is going to be more about, short attacks. Edmonds, Waddle, Tyreek. Tua can throw a deep ball, but he doesn't throw many of them. Looking at his statistic, I think he was one of the least amount of deep ball attempts for qualified passers in the league, with over like a 50% completion percentage, which just reiterates the fact that he doesn't throw it enough. But Wilson, I think, will be an afterthought in the offense. But he's your wide receiver what?
Wide receiver, I don't know.
You go the top 8. I don't think that's that's fine. I think that he's got upside. I was actually really hoping, I made the wrong decision. I was hoping Nick Westbrook-Akeen was going to make it back. So with the news with Traylon Burks, I want to start hedging some drafts and taking him late and mixing him in, because if Bob Woods is recovering, depending upon his recovery process, they're saying that he should be ready. But if there's any hiccups or setbacks, and Burks is not able to play for whatever reason, he may be the wide receiver 1. Now, that's unlikely. He's definitely more the 2 or 3 in this offense, but still a lot of vacated targets, a lot of opportunities in this offense, and it is a run-first team, but bottom line, he should have a role, and as your wide receiver 8, 9, 10, I think that's going to be a fine play in drafts.
All right, you want to check the chat for a second?
Yeah, let me take a look over here. Yep, go for it. Bradley's got to use the restroom, I think. Let me, boom. Okay, I'm coming back around the clock here. The turn, look, he messed it up, though. Like, he had all that red, all that yellow, all that blue. He messed it up down here with a couple yellow and green spots, but overall, he did stay true to double and triple tapping the position. So Jacoby Brissett goes off as quarterback 34. Looks like somebody is hedging on the Baker Mayfield news here, and that is their quarterback 4 for Street Sign.
You're on the clock.
Looks like Bradley said his auto pick there for James White. And I have, I'm on the clock now, so let's go ahead and take a look. I definitely want another receiver. I'm going to see who's available inside the queue here on the backside. And there's a couple guys that I really like here, just depending upon which way I want to go. I like James Washington. I'm going to go and select him here. We were talking earlier about Gallup, and we were talking about recovering from his ACL injury. Tolbert's been looking good as well, but I think that regardless, James Washington is going to have a role in this offense, and we're going to be able to get some fantasy points here, especially as my wide receiver number 8 deep in drafts on a pass-first offense with the easiest strength of schedule, and using the strength of schedule tool for the wide receiver position. Dallas has, in the playoffs at least, let's go ahead, the 10th easiest schedule for wide receivers in the playoffs. That's weeks 15 through 17 to shoot it as long as we make it. And if we go to the fantasy season, weeks 1 through 14, using the fantasy strength of schedule over at Full-Time Fantasy, Dallas has, where are they? Wide receivers. I got to organize it. Sorry. Dallas has the 7th easiest as well. So I really like James Washington this year, Bradley. What about you?
Yeah, James Washington is definitely an interesting player given his role on the Pittsburgh Steelers last season. And we've seen some flashes from James Washington, but in a more full role we can't expect Jalen Tolbert to step in week 1. I know that James Washington is coming off I think it's a foot injury, but I think he's got the veteran presence. He'll probably be the first one to rotate in at least the first couple weeks. And I wouldn't be surprised, though, if Jalen Tolbert takes over by week like 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, and he had a sore foot, and I know they're saying he's ready by camp, so there is at least some concerns with Washington right now, but Washington has definitely shown flashes when he was in Pittsburgh, and it was, tail end of Ben's career. So my philosophy here is you have a quarterback who's willing to push the ball, an offense that is much better at this point in his career. You have one of the easiest strength of schedules, not only as a team, but at the wide receiver position in the entire NFL, both the fantasy season and the playoffs, weeks 15 through 17. Everything combined as wide receiver 95. Oh, man, I love it. I love it. And in drafts right now, Washington has been going exactly where I selected him as wide receiver 95. Pick two. I actually selected him a little earlier, but hey, I love him there. I'm going to take him. So there's a question in the chat I want to get to. It was some good questions. I was waiting for you to come back. And this question is from Jose. Who is the better veteran quarterback without a starting job, Baker Mayfield or Jimmy G?
Mayfield.
I
think Mayfield, because he's willing to throw the ball down the field, and Jimmy Garoppolo gets really flustered in the pocket. He depends more on the yak players, whereas Mayfield doesn't. Like, we've seen him use his arm, and maybe Mayfield is a little more reckless, but that allows for more fantasy points. So I think that has a higher upside. Like, Mayfield could probably access higher upsides than Jimmy Garoppolo could on the same team.
Okay, I like it. I'm just looking at some plays here as we come back through the final
I haven't
round.
done, for what it's worth, I haven't done the Baker Mayfield versus Jimmy Garoppolo bell curves to check that out. So I'm just guessing at this point, but that's my intuition.
Your intuition and my intuition match. I think Baker is. I have seen Jimmy G play plenty, and I am not impressed. Although I have not been impressed with Baker Mayfield's play, but a lot of that can be attributed to injuries and just dysfunction in the organization.
He had a separated.
Who the hell took Romeo Dubes? Jet Metch, you? Round 20 snipes? Man, they just hit different, don't they?
They do. They do hit different.
I was watching my queue and just saw his name just go out the window. Gone. Oh, man. Yes, everybody, please hit the like button. Make sure to subscribe. It helps the algorithm. We appreciate it. Always appreciate the support of you tuning in. And always, if you can, report Jet Metch for sniping me in round 20, because that's just not fair. That's not cool. Logan Thomas, tight end 31, off the board finally in round 20. I was wondering where he's going to fall. News is that they're hoping he's ready by week 1. Jody and I had talked about our tight ends on the Full-Time Fantasy podcast last week, and one of his sleepers was Logan Thomas. What is your take on Logan Thomas this year? I was a little bit more weary of the pick just because of the injury and his injury concerns.
You're on deck.
But tight end 31, round 20. I mean, that's a pretty damn good value, and I'm willing to take a gamble there. What about you?
We know the Washington tight end is going to be very valuable with the history of what we've seen with Logan Thomas, but also John Bates got a lot of targets. And we saw the last couple of years, the tight end has been very valuable for Carson Wentz, whether it was Mo Alley Cox having some spike weeks or whether it was Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. But here's a deep cut of the week, Billy, throwing it back. Throwback Friday.
Yes.
Deep cut of the week. New tight end for the Washington football team, Antonio Gandy Golden.
Okay.
Antonio Gandy Golden,
Don't love it.
6'2", 225 pound former wide receiver, third or fourth round. I think it was a fourth round pick for Washington a couple years ago. He transferred to tight end, and with the injury to Logan Thomas, who I don't expect to start the season, and John Bates is more of a blocking tight end. Antonio Gandy-Golden might be an interesting play because he knows the offense. He's been there for a while. He's got 4.6 speed, which is like 80th percentile plus for tight ends. He's got great speed scores, and he crushed it at Liberty. So I think that that's an interesting pick. But I'm going to go with my boy Tyler Conklin to end the draft.
I like that pick. I did not think he was going to go undrafted. I had figured you were going to take him.
Well, I had Njoku and Schultz by week 9, and I needed a bye week, not 9.
That's fine. I'm not opposed to it. I mean, I'm a 3 tight end build because I usually push the position here. But
yeah,
I mean, I think even if it's not tight end premium, 3 tight end build here is fine, especially if you're waiting late. And yes, you have Schultz, but Njoku without a quarterback right now, or is the quarterback Brissett? Is it Deshaun Watson? We just don't know, right? So I think that taking Conklin, who's shown his efficiency in the passing game, who's already coming out of camp reports that he is the passing down tight end right now. I think that it's a great pick. He's one of my sleeper picks in tight end. I actually listed him as my sleeper pick on the tight end show. So
you've come to the dark side, Billy.
Yes, the dark side you have. So I think.
Please make that a clip. The dark side you have.
So Conklin, I'm embracing all the Conklin in 2022.
Do you remember last spring of 2021 when I texted you that you were like, "What are you doing tonight?" And I was like, "I'm watching Tyler Conklin film."
Yes, I do. Yes, I think I told you to go to bed.
But now there's #no regrets there.
Yeah, no regrets. Well, let's run through. We appreciate everyone who stuck around for the entire show. I still have one wing left, so I'm gonna finish up this and go eat my wing. But I have monkeypox.
You will be 500 short of the world record.
Seriously, I can't believe it was what you said, 120 pound girl.
Yeah, 127 pound girl.
Jesus Christ! Come on, Joey Chestnut, step up your game. You can eat like 200 hot dogs, but you can't eat 500 wings. It doesn't seem right to me. Something's not adding up here, Bradley. But Monkeypox starts off his board with an OCD color coordinated board, and then switches gears in round 13, but goes 2-7-7-3 501. That was the count. Scott corrected us. Street Sign goes 4-3-10-2. Kill Bill 4-5-8-2. Mr. Stalder himself goes 3-6-8-2. I go 2-6-9-3. We have 3-6-8-3 from the deep end, 2-6-10-2 from Bob. We have Who Cares goes 2-5-10-3. That's another one of my favorite types of construction. Wieland looks like got a little lost at sea at 4-7-6-3. Jet Metch, who sniped me, god damn you, Jet Metch, goes 3-6-9-2. The Daily Double goes 4-6-7-3, and Always Smooth goes 3-6-8-3. Outside your team, Bradley, what's some of your favorite construction here on the board? Give me like maybe your top favorite or maybe top 2 teams, and give you a second to look at it. I'll stall for you.
Yeah, I like Monkeypox Qua at the 101. I like that build because, as I mentioned earlier, the Josh Allen Kirk Cousins, I was a fan of that. And then, whoa, there's a huge spider that just like dive bombed me. Holy buckets. Holy guacamole. Oh, man.
Bradley's getting attacked by spiders.
There we go. So
we have Yoda impressions. Now we have Harry Potter spiders dropping from the ceiling.
Yes. Oops. Sorry about that, Billy. Man, oh, man. So I don't know how to recover from that. Other than Josh Allen stacks with Stephon Diggs, I love the Cortland Sutton pick. He's at wide receiver 14. Please don't let that be a thing. I want to keep my Cortland Sutton's at the wide receiver 24, wide receiver 25. Please let it stay there.
Yeah, so Sutton, just like as an example, he's been going as wide receiver 23 on FFWC.
This was a real reach on Cortland Sutton.
He's not going to make it back, though.
But I love Sutton at this spot. He's your wide receiver 3. He's got massive upside. For reference, Cortland Sutton, his wide receiver 1 rate is like 4 times as large as Jerry Jeudy's over the last 4 years or last couple years. Sutton is the A-dot monster. He's a touchdown monster. Holy buckets. So I also don't mind Allen Robinson as your wide receiver 4. Brandon Cooks is your wide receiver 5. And then the A.J. Dillon, Rashad Penny, James, he knew his build and he wanted to just go for it. So props to Monkeypox there. He stuck with his build. He went with, I would have gone with 4 tight ends. If you're completely punting the position, we saw.
I don't think so. The 2 he has, Irv Smith and Ingram, are 2 very, good tight ends that are going to be incorporated.
But Dan Arnold, Dan Arnold might push Evan Ingram for splitting catching snaps there.
Yeah, he might push him a little bit. Bellinger, though, has been rumored to be running 50-50 with RSJ with the first team over in New York. So, I mean, if Bellinger does win this position or even splits 50-50 on the field, that's a win.
I know. I probably wouldn't have drafted the likes of Alec Pierce. I would have probably gone with some other tight. Maybe Gerald Everett would have been a better pick if that lines up.
Yeah, it's a high risk, high upside pick. I prefer Conklin there, or I prefer even Logan Thomas or Brait there, right?
Yeah.
There's a few other at positions, but I mean, it is one of those risk reward picks.
And I like the 112 as well, the stacking of Brady and Evans together. We talked about Evans already on the podcast, but I don't like the amount of tight running backs though, because McCaffrey, Montgomery, ETN. Like I like ETN, but you don't need to draft Montgomery as well. You're banking on Rondell Moore being your wide receiver 3 or Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Like I like a lot of the pieces that are part of this team, but I don't like the construction at the 112.
Okay. Do you know who my favorite team is besides my own, Bradley? Because I can't say myself. It's yours. I actually love your draft. I'm looking over at it. I mean, the only part that I didn't really like was the Henderson, Matterson, Jamal Williams section. Outside
I didn't like the Jamal Williams section. That was a brain fart on my end. I should have picked a different running back. But.
Yeah, outside that 3-pick stretch, I love your draft. Like you had sniped me multiple times in this draft. Like the Tony pick, the Bateman pick, the even what was it? There was another one. Corey Davis was on my list. There was quite a few times in this draft that you had sniped me, but overall, I love the start. I would have taken Lamar Jackson there at 4 as well. And then I love double tapping Najee and Swift, both who I have inside my top 7 at the running back position.
I love it.
So you have 2 of my top 7 running backs. And then Fields, who I'm very high on. Overall,
getting him at quarterback 18
still.
Oh man. He's going ahead of that on other sites pretty significantly. So to get him at 18, I like it.
Yeah. So you're probably my favorite build outside my own because I'm biased, but I think that overall.
Let's talk about your build. I'll talk about your build for a second.
Yeah.
I like, Rodgers at quarterback 15. I feel like that's a value. He's going ahead of that and a lot of other sites as well. Jonathan Taylor, CeeDee Lamb. I still think Kyler Murray was in that tier, and I would have rather have gotten Kyler at that spot. But I know how you need to stay on brand. So Jonathan Taylor.
Can't stop, won't stop.
And I feel like CeeDee Lamb, but you had your choice. You could have gone CeeDee Lamb or one of those running backs, the Najee Harris's or the Deandre Swift's. I'm not really, me personally, I'm not going with the Dalvin Cook or Derrick Henry. Give me like Joe Mixon or DeAndre Swift over those 2.
So there's a reason for that. 1, I have a shit ton of Swift. 2,
right.
The 3-start wide receiver for me bumps Lamb up over both of these players. And Lamb, to me, is my wide receiver 4 on the season.
I'm actually surprised that you were able to get DK Metcalf where you did. I know he went as wide receiver 18, but it's surprising that given this is a 3 wide receiver build, that Metcalf fell this far. That wide receiver itself became values in this draft.
Yeah, and they did because we see in Best Ball people push up running back a lot, right? And then add in the super flex component and it pushes wide receiver down. And even though it's a 3 wide receiver build, that's why I love this format, because there's so much creativity that you can do. Like if you get forced out at running back, you can go quarterback or wide receiver or vice versa. There's so many different avenues that you can approach this draft from. And every one of my teams has looked completely different. So that's
I actually
the
don't mind the Daniel Jones at quarterback 26 pick, though. There are other friends of ours in the industry who really love Daniel Jones as a sleeper pick. So I like him, Daniel Jones, and he stacks with Kenny Galladay.
He's going as quarterback 26, so I got him at his positional draft value.
Right.
But from a ranking standpoint, inside the rankings, he's actually going at full-time fantasy. So consensus is 25. I am a little higher on him than consensus. Again, that's Jody and I, both of our rankings, but just by a couple positional spots. But overall, I think that's about where he's going most of the time. I like it. It's an upside pick, right? He has some rushing ability. He's got a new system, new coach, improved offensive line. There's a lot to like about the Giants this year. It's just a matter of it all clicking. So, again, I was comfortable with just 2 quarterbacks. I think I'm only one of a couple in here, one of 4 that have 2 quarterbacks. Or is it 3? 1, 2, 3. Nope, 4. One of 4. So again, I will push quarterback and I will take it to the limit.
All right. So Daniel Jones, fun fact, in 2021, his 84th percentile weekly outcome was quarterback 14. Ahead of Joe Burrow, ahead of Derek Carr.
I like it.
And he's going at what, quarterback 26? Daniel Jones is undervalued.
So we last couple questions and we'll call it a night.
Sure.
Since we must start 3 wide receiver, isn't team 1 primed for the format? Yes, they are actually. So as long as he's able to hit at running back here and tight end, he is primed for the format. That being said, he did only do 7, which is a little light in my opinion for the start 3 format.
I think this is fine for his build, though.
I think it's fine for his build as well, but you look back and say, hey, the other ones he drafted, there's some concerns like Ross, right? Pierce is a rookie, Tolbert. So there's
Ross
3
could
rookies.
be a 0, straight 0.
Yeah, so there is some concerns. So I think as long as he's able to hit on a couple of those and hit on his running backs, he's definitely primed for the format. I loved Monkeypox's build. I thought it was a good build overall. It's something that I would do from the 1 hole as well. But I think that overall, I think it was strong. He has to hit on positions just like any of us have weaknesses. All of us have strengths as well. So I think that is it, Bradley. Any closing comments here? Why don't you tell people where to find you on Twitter, YouTube? Hit them with the deets.
Sure. So you can follow me on Twitter at FFStalder. I've got the YouTube channel up, BestBell Fantasy. I've been MIA for the last week because this was the last week of school, and then I'll be posting some content, as I mentioned earlier in the podcast, doing projection study halls this coming week, and also live drafts like this one in the FFWC, and then unofficial, but it's coming out. This is where the deets happen. I'm getting a website up, bestbellfantasy.com. It's not up yet, but it will be this summer, so that's coming up very soon. And I'll be posting some content, and there will be some stuff behind the paywall as well. So really excited about getting all of that squared away during the summer. Big things are coming your way.
Well, Bradley, congratulations on the site and getting things rocking and rolling. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. Make sure to turn on notifications. Make sure to follow us on Twitter. Stay tuned. Also, next week, the 24th, in the lobby, you can join now. Justin Herzig is joining me for a best ball draft here for the Superflex Bowl at FFWC. It's going to be listed as Herzig Happy Hour. It's 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Yes, we will be drinking for Herzig Happy Hour. And we get to hear from one of the best in the business. So make sure to tune in for the Herzig Happy Hour next week. See you all then. Take care and have a good night.
nothing but time, use it to grind. They huffing, they puppet, this bacon is mine. Stakes are all high, your stakes are so dry. I'm as rare as they come, put it all on the line. Losing very doubtful, cause I'm winning every outcome. I'm impressed by his guess, there's no reason to guess. Drafting like I won the lotto, but it's grind every day. Managing teams is just part of the game. Free agents, lineups, they all in one place. This is the content, they can't be replaced. Speaking of place, first is the option. Win is the goal and I do it real often. Tournament entries, I already bought them. I bury the field, that's the nail in the coffin. Checking my watch, checking my clock. Grind is the time, I ain't never gonna stop. Digital, analog, never gonna stop. You ain't never gonna stop, I ain't never gonna stop. Checking my watch, checking my clock. Grind is the time, I ain't never gonna stop. Digital, analog, never gonna stop. You ain't never gonna stop, I ain't never gonna stop. Cause it's grind time.